What's the latest with Hiren and a couple of those guys?
We had a lot of guys get banged up on Friday night. Luckily, we got the extra day of just rest. I think most of the guys are trending to being available. Hiren's probably the most severe of all the guys. Probably would not expect him to play this week, but I think everybody else has a chance to play by game time. So some of them will be game time decisions, but guys we're not as bad as maybe at first thought after the game, and most guys are doing a good job this week at the rehab and trying to get themselves in position to play.
With Hiren out, is PJ available?
PJ's back this week. Yeah, he was in concussion protocol a week ago, but he's cleared and back, so we've got him available, which obviously helps our depth at tackle. Having Shakai Clark available inside the rest of the way is helpful. Again, I thought J.O. did a great job out there last week. So we still feel like we have, 3 good options at tackle and probably 4 good options inside. So, but yeah, he's available.
And then just kind of looking at the film, obviously the second half was big for you guys, but what did you see kind of overall from the group Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good conference football game. I thought the first half, I thought we played pretty well offensively the whole game. I mean, we punted one time, I think. We had the 2 drops that were critical. We dropped, I think Roderick dropped one. I don't know if we'd have scored that drive, but it would have been a pretty explosive play. And then obviously the one we threw to Rooster would have been a touchdown. So those 2 hurt momentum. We got inside the 5, kicked a field goal in the first half, second half, didn't score. That's frustrating. But overall, I mean, we ran the ball well. When we did throw it, we threw it really well and effective. So I thought the offense played well. Defensively, the first quarter, they got after us, just like we said after the game. We weren't getting any pressure on him. We allowed them to spit some runs, more than we'd like, but they're so good throwing the football, you have to, that's what a good team does with balance. But even then, we got them on the ground for the game. Their running numbers weren't staggering. We did a good job overall stopping it. And like I said, the last 3 quarters, they had less yards than they had in the whole first quarter. So I thought our defense did a really nice job after the first quarter of settling in. And we got, especially in the second half, got a lot more pressure, started causing the turnovers, and kind of looked like we'd looked all year. So thought we played a good football game, and you expect conference games to be close. And guys did a really nice job in the second half with how we finished.
How key has Justin Osborne been just over the years for this program?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it because we got a lot of really good linemen, but he's our best lineman, like talent-wise. I mean, there's guys like Branson Hickman that is as reliable as any, and they're all just as valuable as the next. But like J.O. is the best guard in our league. He could play center, and he's arguably as good a tackle as anybody we got. So for him to have not taken any tackle reps this year because he's been hurt and missed 3 or 4 games, and just to pop right out to right tackle because we didn't have PJ, Hiren went out, and feel like we didn't miss a beat. And then I thought obviously Ben Sparks, Shakai, and Logan did fantastic at guard. But J.O., he's not just a versatile guy, he's super talented. And I think that's why, he'll have a real chance at the next level to play for a while.
Coach, what jumps out at you when you look at Memphis?
Good football team. I think Ryan's done a really good job. They're 8-2. They played a really good schedule. I mean, you look at their 2 losses to top 25 teams. One's a top 10 team, and both of them are really tight games. They know how to win. They find ways to win, and that's all that matters. Nobody cares about how many you win by. They find ways to win. They're really good on offense. On defense, they're just as good as our defense, basically, in third down defense, and they're both top 10 in the country. They're great at turnovers. I think they got like 4 pick sixes for touchdowns this year. So they're really opportunistic on defense. They get off the field on third down, and they've got good players. Memphis has kind of been the gold standard in this league year in, year out. They've won some championships, but even the years they don't, they've been the most consistent program in the American since its inception. And so we got a lot of respect for their program, but this team in particular that Ryan has, quarterback's a winner from right here, coach's kid. Seth he's super tough, just knows how to put the ball in the end zone. He's a winner, he's a gamer, he's tough, he's got grit. So they're a good complete football team, and there's a reason they're 8-2, 7-1, or 6-1, or 5-1, or whatever they are in the league. They only got 1 loss to a team that's undefeated, so they're really good.
Does the 11 a.m. start factor in anything you do, pro or con? Do you like that early start?
Yeah, I think this will be our 4th 11 a.m. start of the year, maybe. I don't know.
Have you noticed any trends with those early games or compared to night games?
No, I think we played pretty well. I mean, we practice in the mornings, so
yeah,
our guys are used to getting up and starting meetings at 7 o'clock. So I don't think it really affects anybody. It doesn't affect us.
I know the teams are different, but playing up there in Memphis has been a struggle for
Yeah.
SMU football for the last few years. You were able to exercise a little bit of a demon at Tulsa last year.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, I mean, I know there are only a handful of guys that have played up there before, but does
Yeah.
that factor into anything you do during the week or
No,
any
I
of
mean,
that?
it's no secret we've struggled there. I think we haven't won in a decade and only a couple times ever, you know. It's a great atmosphere. Liberty Bowl's great, you know. They have a great fan base that comes out and supports them, especially when they're good like they are right now. I mean, I know Ryan mentioned it the other day, you know, we played there in 19 in that game day game, and it was packed. It was a great atmosphere. But we didn't play bad, you know, we just got beat. I wasn't here for 2 years ago, but yeah, there's no secret we haven't done well there, but it doesn't affect this Memphis team or this SMU team. So, you know, we got a lot to play for. We got a chance to go 1-0 this week if we can find a way to win. You know, we go undefeated on the road in conference play. I mean, that's stuff that is hard to do in any league that you're in. So, you know, we just got to go play better now.
With this is a big game this week. You got next week. You know, if all things go right, you have a conference championship game to play in. But the portal is kind of coming up that window. How do you guys handle that? With any conversations in terms of guys coming back, guys not? You know,
Yeah.
things like that during the season.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunately the reason that you see in our game that a lot of changes start happening 2 weeks before that window. That's the why now. You know, everyone's dealing with it in college football. This will be like the third year in a row we have to. I think it goes back to, I think we have good relationships with our guys. I think our staff does a great job. We have good team culture. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. Doesn't mean everybody's happy, but we have a good team culture. We have good relationships. You know, we've had conversations throughout the season, so we're not like having sit-down meetings with 15, 20 different guys. We're not, you know, doesn't mean we won't have somebody that may not want to transfer to play more somewhere, but like we don't have a bunch of guys trying to leave this program. We got a bunch of people trying to come to play for this program. So I'm not worried about our current roster. I think the guys are really focused in on this week and, you know, trying to continue to play well. But you also have to be prepared because you're right, in 2 weeks the portal opens not only from your team but from everywhere else, and you got about, you know, 3 weeks, and it's a recruiting blitz, if you will, for everybody. So definitely multitasking, you know, at the same time. But I feel good about our current team.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does that look like from the staff side? Obviously, the players, you want them locked in on
Yeah.
things, but you guys got to kind of.
Well, I mean, you know, it's hard for the staff. We're most locked in on the game. You know, the best thing you can do for recruiting is win. And so we have a really good, you know, recruiting department, player personnel staff, and, you know, our graduate assistants, our analysts. There's a bunch of people that are evaluating stuff. The thing about the portal that's funny, you don't even know who's available. You don't have a clue until it happens in 2 weeks or whatever. So, and then you have to react. Versus the high school world where you kind of at least know who's available. So it's kind of you got to wait till it happens, and then it's just a hard 3 weeks. And you know, last year we were playing in a bowl game during that window. Who knows when or how we'll be playing this year? Just part of it. So you just kind of, you know, lace up your shoes tight and go to work.
You mentioned it after the game with Moochie, but you know, with Curley out, he's the most veteran at SMU receiver on the outside that you have now. How big is kind of his leadership, his maturation over the last couple of years, and then obviously production on the field?
Moochie's a stud. You know, obviously he did make some big plays last year for us. We feel like all those guys on the outside have a lot of ability, but he is the most experienced here. And, you know, I thought he had the best fall camp of all the wideouts, and we had good wideouts. And then, you know, when he hurt his finger at TCU, that's been frustrating. Like I said, last week was the first time it's become a half splint. You know, he's still not totally freed up, but I think that was helpful. And he did a nice job of making sure he was 1 yard short of 100 too, because, you know, we want to keep that streak going now, 10 straight games. So, but no, it was big. He can really catch the football down the field. You know, you saw him obviously on the short route for the touchdown, but he's an explosive guy for us, and he can help lead that room.
When it comes to the Memphis offense, you have to be in all three phases of your defense ready to go, but how big is the pass rush and upsetting what Hennigan, making him uncomfortable?
Especially on, you know, obvious passing downs or long yardage situations, it's really important because, you know, but the biggest thing is we got to stop the run. I mean, that running back, he's as good as anybody in the league. He transferred in there, and he's really good. I mean, he's big, he's physical, he's fast, he can catch it. He's an all-around player. So no different than every week. You got to stop the run or contain the run. They do a nice job when they're in third down and medium situations. They get the ball out quick. I mean, again, I said Seth's really experienced. He knows how to get the ball out of his hands. He doesn't hold the ball. But when we get our opportunities, just like every week, the pass rush is huge. Because if you don't get some pressure on him, it's going to be just like last week. He's going to find the open guy, and it's going to be a completion.
How would you characterize Elijah? Has he exceeded expectations?
Which Elijah?
Defensive lineman, defensive end.
Roberts?
Yeah,
Okay,
Elijah
good.
Roberts.
Yeah. I think Elijah, we felt, those of us who had been at Miami when he was on the scout team, we felt like he had a lot of juice to specifically rush the passer. And then he had, I think the current staff there had been trying to bulk him up to play a 3 technique, which is a little out of position, but by doing that, he'd gained some weight. And so you felt like he would fit at that field defensive end for us in our scheme after a year. When he got here, I think in the spring, he instantly proved he was going to be an impact player for us. Maybe not sure how much, but what really stood out in the spring was he was not going to be just a pass rush guy. Like, he was big enough to be an every down guy. He could play the run. And I think that's his biggest asset. He's a first down, second down, third down guy. He's not a pass rush specialist. He's not a run stopper. He's a every down guy. I think he's the best defensive lineman in this league. And, and we've got some good ones. And just because of his versatility. He can play the field in on base downs. He can rush the passer on base downs. He can rush the passer on third. He can move in and get on guards and play D tackle on third downs, which we've seen him do. So I think he's exceeded expectations just from the standpoint he's an all-around player. And he's obviously been a huge get for us.
And speaking of defense, obviously much improved from last year. Coach Simon's named to the Browns watch list. Just what has he been able to do with getting guys in, working with his staff, and then obviously him kind of creating that defense?
I think the biggest thing, first of all, Scott's very deserving of the Broyles Award nomination. I think you look at a couple things. I mean, we've said it before, we haven't had a top 40 defense here in 4 decades, 40 years. And we're sitting in the top 10 now for the last month. So not only should he be nominated, I'm pretty biased, he should be a semifinalist. And I think they, usually the top 5 teams in the country have a coordinator go, but if you're not going to put a guy like that, I mean, it's kind of hard to change 40 years of history in a year and a half, and he's done that. His staff has done that. And I think the other way they've done it is, one, they're good coaches. He's got a history of having really good defenses, but, they went out and recruited and developed the current guys we had, put them in position to be successful. We had some good players, the Elijah Chapmans, DeVeers, and you can go on and on. But we went out and we recruited guys, and a lot gets said about NIL and all that. That wasn't the reason guys came here. The reason guys came here is because our coaching staff worked their butts off and guys wanted to be here. It's easy for people to give a lazy take and say it was NIL, but it wasn't. NIL is a part of every school now, but we didn't have one player come here because of NIL. And so I think when you go out and you bring in 25 transfers, specifically a lot on defense, his staff and the guys on defense, and really our whole staff that had a part to do it, deserve a lot of credit for that. But then Scott and the staff being able to put them in position, get them to execute, get them to play fast. What we do well is we swarm to the ball, we tackle, we don't let explosive plays happen, we contain the run. Like, you still got to get a lot of guys to buy into that and play a lot of guys. And in doing so, I think that's why he deserves a ton of credit.